I was so convinced that it would feel right if it was right, and it never really felt right at all. Hello people of the internet, and welcome back to my channel. I'm already not starting this video off like how I imagined doing it for the past 8 months. But you know what? We're going with a casual approach. We're giving besties on FaceTime together vibes. So today, I want to talk about my boob job. Go into a lot of the details that some people really just don't get into. I promise you, I mean no shade to anyone when I say this, but I feel like the people you typically watch boob job videos for are all like influencers who are just trying to like come clean about the experience, but I don't know, they either like don't go into enough detail or go into details about the wrong things, at least in my opinion. So I just want to be like a normal person who comes out and talks about a boob job, like I don't know, just to show that like it is a realistic process that anyone can do as long as they can afford it. And I want to talk about just like the realities of the situation, like a lot of the actual process of doing it, not just like how big you went and how long you recovered for and all of that. So I'm gonna start from the beginning. So one thing I do want to say is I didn't consume a lot of content and I didn't do a lot of research on the process before I actually started getting deep into it. There was one thing that I did watch. It was called Boob Jobs, the Ultimate 2022 Guide by the Breaking Beauty podcast. Once I listened to that podcast is when I actually booked the consultation, and this was after probably like a year, maybe a year and a half of kind of joking around with the concept and being like, oh, maybe I'll do it, but never actually like properly putting it into process. I live in Wyoming, but there's not a lot of like fancy places in Wyoming for any kind of appointment. So I went to Colorado for the actual like surgery center, and I just looked up breast augmentations in Colorado. I was like 99% sure I would get a place in Denver because that's where like most of the places are, but it was actually like in Loveland, Fort Collins area called Front Range Plastic Surgery. And honestly, like the thing that really came down to why I picked them over anyone else in Colorado is like the way they kind of projected the concept of a boob job. Other places were like, I don't know how to explain it. They were just making it really like awkward and uncomfortable sounding. They were like, look youthful again, have young breast. And I was like, okay. Especially for me, since I didn't want to look youthful again, I just wanted bigger boobs. I was like, this is weird. Front Range Plastic Surgery was just like, do you want a boob job? Essentially, like just made it out to be very straightforward what it was, and there wasn't like just pictures of boobs like all over the page. It was just like pictures of like mountains, like outdoors stuff, and I was like, okay, I can vibe with that. I just like the vibes, honestly. I literally wrote in my notes, I was like, at least this place didn't feel like a Victoria's Secret ad. That was what was really getting me. Oh yeah, and this was a big part of it. Like I felt like because the surgeon was more like me with the outdoorsy stuff, I was like, he's gonna understand my questions about like, how will this affect hiking and how will this affect going to the gym and all of that. All right, so all of that was just my initial thoughts before I actually did the consultation and how I was choosing where to do the consultation at. I was fortunate enough to like the place that I got my first consultation at. I'm not saying this always has to apply. You can maybe go to multiple different places to kind of fill out if you're liking them or not. But I'm gonna explain what about this consultation made me pick this place over looking around more. So for the details of my actual consultation, I scheduled it. The day that I made the call to schedule was in mid-September. It was going to be for November 29th, and my ideal surgery date was going to be the 23rd of December. I know that's a lot of dates. I'm going to keep them all on screen to kind of keep track of them. This wasn't like my ideal setup at all. I was super worried about it, but I knew like I had procrastinated the call for so long, and I was only doing this like a month in advance, so I didn't expect to get my best case scenario, but they were super good about calling you if they had any cancellations, and that's exactly what happened. I got a call on September 26th for a cancellation of the next day. It was awesome. It was super last minute, but I was so excited. I literally did all the paperwork on the drive over there. One of the things I will hate on this place for was the paperwork. The paperwork was like a 1 out of 10. It was super, super long. I'm not necessarily bagging on that. The way it was organized was so bad. It pretty much listed every single medical condition you could possibly have and made you answer yes or no for if you had it, and then if your family had it. Like, these were two separate things. I'm pretty sure it was like 50 pages long. It was so bad. Instead of just being like, list any medical history that you have and list any medical history your family has. I don't know why they would make you select for every single thing, because I was just putting no, 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 no. But that's just the petty thing. I mean, it was literally only the paperwork. Everything else was fine, but the paperwork, oh my gosh. And then like every other doctor ever does, I got into the consultation and they made me do the paperwork again, physically. So that was annoying. I had an RN that came and talked to me before anything else. She took a couple of my vitals and then she talked to me about the paperwork. Then she gave me a gown and I changed. Then the surgeon came in and he kind of just gave me a really brief explanation on what the surgery would be. For this particular guy, I saw like a lot of negative reviews online. Maybe a lot is a strong word, but I saw a few negative reviews online, particularly about like his approach, I guess, like the way he came in the room and was just like, here's what we're gonna do, bye. I didn't mind that, like I don't care. He was like, you can ask me any questions, but anything that I know, the nurses know too, so you can just talk to them. And I respect it. He's a busy man. I'm not gonna waste his time asking him questions that he could have any of his 20 nurses do. He's literally one surgeon. But you know, if that's not for you, that is fine. For me personally, I was chill. I liked him a lot. I enjoyed talking to him, but I didn't need to waste his time. Yeah, like I literally wrote this right after the consultation and I put in quote, he did ask if I had any questions for him specifically, but I honestly just did not. He clearly knew what he was talking about and I trusted him. One of the things I heard this girl say on a podcast before I got the consultation was that she didn't do any chest exercises at all after her surgery because her boobs will move outwards over time. The RN told me that wasn't a problem. It doesn't mean I don't think about that and worry about it a little bit. However, she did tell me I'll be able to flex my pecs after, which is so true. Pretty much anytime I like do anything involving my arm, like if I flex my arm, my boobs move. And I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but this is so interesting and no one told me that this would happen except the RN. I wish I could show this, but I really can't. If you're weirded out by that, I promise you, it's like, it's a little weird at first. The first time you do it, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? But afterwards, you're like, ha, I can flex. We then took some of the before pictures. Super uncomfortable, very awkward. I was not happy, but it is worth it to see it side by side when you get the results. And then she gave me the fitting bra, which is it's like kind of like a bandeau or a sports bra. It clips in the front. It's a Fruit of the Loom front clasping bra. So you use that and then you put the sizers on, which are like literally their own implants. You just stick them inside the bra and then you look at how the bra looks with them inside. And then they go up in increments of 50 cc's at a time. If this is like your first touch of boob job research, you're not gonna know what cc's are, but essentially it's just the material that is inside the implant. I think if you're like injecting something, there's like a certain amount of filling to put inside of it. Never think of your boob job in terms of bra size. You only need to think of it in terms of cc's, which I know is super hard to do, but it will help you in the long run. If you are trying to get either like the same size as someone else, or if you're just referencing someone else and saying if you want less or more, make sure you're referencing someone who is at least a similar height and weight to you. But one of the more important things is your boob width. So they will measure this part and whatever size that is determines a lot about how many cc's you can get. So I'm about 5'3", 5'4". At the time of the surgery, I weighed about 118 pounds. I have no idea what cup size I was. I wore bras that were like a whole cup size too big from before I lost a bunch of weight. So I have no clue, but I'm gonna show pictures later on how flat I was. I was literally just a board, so that's as much information as I have. And then my boob width was 10 centimeters on the left and then 11 centimeters on the right. It's really funny because after I lost weight, I couldn't mentally process the fact that my boobs were gone. Like I looked in the mirror and genuinely still saw what I looked like before. Originally, I thought I would get somewhere around 300 to 450 cc's, leaning most towards like 350 to 400 because I'd seen so many people who are my original size go to like my ideal size with that amount of cc's. But like I said, you shouldn't really reference other people that highly. I ended up trying on 250, 300, and 350, and here are the pictures for reference. I was definitely feeling like 250 was like way too small in the pictures, and I wanted a little bit over 300. So if you're following my ideal size, days as I move along through this process. My ideal amount just kept decreasing. I still felt like in the pictures I wasn't getting any volume, and it was driving me insane. And here comes the most important clarification of this entire video that you will ever get. I did not feel comfortable in those sizers at all. I was not sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be amazing, this is gonna be an awesome experience. I was so freaked out and so uncomfortable, and while I love the nurses and I love my surgeon and I love the place, I have so much anxiety and so much fear, and I'm just really freaked out by a lot of processes that, yeah, the whole process is just making me uncomfortable, and that's all right. And with the sizers, I see a lot of people say that in that moment, like looking at themselves with the sizers on, they knew this was the right decision, or they felt super confident. Like the amount of people who have said, oh, I knew then that it wasn't the final product and I wasn't actually gonna look exactly like that, but just seeing myself with the sizers made me feel better. I didn't feel better. I was literally like, this looks stupid. I hate my body. I hate everything about myself. Like, it was a depressive episode in that room. It didn't help that I was wearing like the worst outfit ever, and my hair was a mess, and I just looked ugly in general. I just did not feel like I was beautiful at all. At all. I was so bothered on thinking I looked fat. Like, I felt like the sizers were just like making my body disproportionate. I don't know, I hated it. So this isn't me saying, you know, like if you feel uncomfortable, go through it anyways, or if you feel uncomfortable, don't go through it. I'm not telling you what to do with your life, not telling you what decision you should make based on those emotions, but I need people to know that it doesn't always feel like things are falling into place. It doesn't always feel like fate. The answer is not always like gonna show itself to you. I didn't know that I was ready for this, or that I wanted it at all, or that I was gonna be happy with the results until literal months after I'd already gotten the surgery. And I really need that to be said, because I was so convinced that it would feel right if it was right, and it never really felt right at all. And once again, I wrote this right after the consultation. I said I felt fat with them being bigger, but on the other hand, I felt like they just didn't look good and just as boobs themselves when they were small. So like my problem was, if you took like just a picture of this, my boobs didn't look good. But as soon as you took the whole entire body, I felt like I looked disproportionate with bigger boobs. And with my frame, I was given options of 275cc, 285cc, 310cc, or 315cc. I was super frustrated with this because this was all based on the only things I could possibly do with my size, and I wanted 350. I had in my head for a while that 350 was going to be the magic number. Even though I was kind of starting to go down mentally, I definitely kept leaning towards the fact that 350 was like my minimum. Yeah, I was okay with 300, but I was really counting on 350. And they also said the ones in the 200s were closer to the right size for my frame. So when I thought about it more for like practical reasons, I was like, that is probably better. This is hilarious, but I wrote down, I thought I would probably be somewhere between a high B cup and a C cup. And then the price breakdown here was the final cost being around $8,000 with a $650 reduction for booking within a month after my consultation. I would have to go to a pre-op appointment 1 week before the surgery to get my medication and to conclusively tell them what amount of cc's that I wanted, and then I would have the actual surgery. Following that, you have a post-op the day after, 1 week after, 6 weeks after, and 6 months after. So we're finally getting on with the actual process.
Range Plastic Surgery. My name is Victoria. How can I assist you?
Hi. A few weeks ago, I did a consultation for a breast augmentation, and I was hoping to schedule the surgery.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Are you excited?
Yes.
All right, Jaden. Well, we have you all set and squared away here.
Thank you so much. It took me like 3 weeks to build up the nerve to actually schedule it. Once I did it, I felt way more relieved. But once again, making that final decision was extremely stressful. Throughout those 3 weeks, I probably went back and forth 200 times on if I should actually do it or not. And then once I scheduled it, it was like still a battle in my head, but I knew I couldn't back out because I already put so much money into it. The pre-op appointment that was 1 week before was actually really quick. The major thing that happened here was that I had already determined in my head that I wanted allergen 285cc. And then when I went in for my appointment, I had a different RN, and she was like, can I give you a bit of advice? And I was like, sure, you know, whatever. She suggested Mentor 300cc, and this is gonna get a little bit confusing, but essentially the brands have different sizing. So I couldn't do 300 in Allergen, and I couldn't do 285 in Mentor. So my final decision when I decided I wanted 285 was mostly because I wanted Allergen and not Mentor, because for some reason when I was like just looking into both of them, I just felt more drawn to Allergen, and I felt like the results of people who had Allergen just looked better than the ones with Mentor. So when the RN originally suggested this, I was like, ugh. Not because of the CC size, just because I was like, I don't know if I want Mentor. And then we talked about it, and they were essentially like, there is no difference. Actually, Mentor might be a little bit better, but they're both reliable. Like, you don't have to worry about difference in looks. Both of them are essentially gonna look the same on your body. The only reason that Allergen might look better might be a coincidence that like those people's body shape just looks more preferable to you. Once again, I was skeptical here. I was like, I don't know, and I have social anxiety, so I was like, I guess. And one thing about me, I love people telling me what to do. Well, I don't love people telling me what to do, but I love like doctors and like hairstylists, people like that telling me what will look best on me, what works best for my shapes, my colors, you know, whatever. I always want to go up to a hairstylist and be like, dead ass, just look at me and tell me like what style needs to happen here, what would look right on me. But hairstylists never do that for me. So I loved that the doctors were just like, this is what you should do. Kind of wished I did that at the consultation, but they didn't. So I was just like, sure, I trust you guys. Y'all are experts. Y'all have done this a million times before. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. Final decision was made. Mentor 300cc. And then they gave me a list of foods and medications to avoid, and I never see anyone talking about this, but because it's a surgery, you need to avoid things that are basically gonna make you bleed more. And that list it's very weird. Onions, tomatoes, like very weird things. And I am a goody two-shoes, so I didn't want to have any of that. You also can't take ibuprofen. I accidentally took Advil like a few days after, and I got so freaked out. I was so convinced I was gonna die. And I was like, if I die because I took an Advil, I'm gonna be so angry at myself. Spoiler alert, I was fine, but yeah, it freaked me out. Also, huge thing to note, you cannot drink 1 week before and 1 week after. I know it's like not that big of a deal, but man, I was like, I can't get drunk. I'm scared. Like, I want to drink so I don't have to have anxiety about the surgery. And then they gave me a shopping list, took out like a good few hours of my days, and then you also have to get blood work done. I don't know if this whole entire process is applicable to every single person, but that's what mine was at least. Okay, finally getting to the surgery. This is the OOTD. I look like a homeless person. I have nothing underneath this, and I'm gonna be wearing slides so that I don't take off shoes or anything. Hopefully this is comfy. I'm probably not gonna get out of this for 2 days. I have a lot in here apparently. This is one, and then you're not allowed to eat 8 hours before. My surgery was at 1 p.m. So I woke up at 3 a.m. to eat, and then I showered at 8, and then they made me put on a nausea patch behind my ear. This was around 2 hours before the surgery, and then I took some meds like 45 minutes before. This is so stupid, but it bothered me. I've never had a surgery before, and I don't know a lot about surgical processes or even about doctors or anything like that. You will have to get in a gown, and you will be naked underneath the gown. At least I think this is everyone's process. And the back of your gown is open, so your butt will be showing. That bothered me so much. I was like so convinced, oh, I'm just gonna like cover myself up when I walk. But then I got super high, and I don't remember walking over to the surgery room, so I'm sure I wasn't covering myself. Like I said, I think this is absolutely normal. It just didn't cross my mind, and it bothered me a lot, and it had like an additional anxiety factor to that, because I was like, is this supposed to be happening? Am I supposed to wear underwear underneath this? Like, what is the process? Do your own research into that if you need to, because like that was the kind of heads up I would have liked to have, so that I could have done my research to be like, what am I supposed to do? Now I don't care because I'm past it, but it's probably something I would have Googled endlessly. They gave me an IV and then kept me in like a surgical waiting room for about an hour before. I had a few things go like mildly wrong, not to like an extreme extent, but I had a few complications, I guess. I was fine for a while after I got the IV. I was scared of the needle, but like I was okay with it. But then like 20 minutes after I got it, I actually passed out. I was in the room alone and I was just like laying there and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I feel super nauseous. And I immediately called the nurse in because I had a button on like my chair. I was like, nurse, and I was like, I am super sick. And she was like, oh, like, yeah, your face is getting really pale. Like, let me get you a trash can. And before she even like finished that sentence, I was out. Slightly unrelated, but I have passed out probably 5 or 6 times in my life at this point. And every time I do, it is a trip. Like I either bang my head on something or I throw up a lot or I don't know, something problematic happens. But this time, physically, I was like, okay, but mentally, I felt like I was having sleep paralysis, which never happens. I went into another dimension. I was like the queen of an alien world. And when I woke up, I like had an anxiety attack because I was so confused and I was so convinced that I actually like lived in the world that I passed out into. And I felt like so sick. I don't know, it was just a lot, but basically I was freaking out. I was like, I don't know what just happened. I don't know what just happened. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. And they were like, just breathe, like just calm down, you're fine. And I was like, so stupid. And then after that, I chilled out. The anesthesiologist came in and he gave me something that made me conscious enough to at least walk to the surgery room, but I don't remember it at all. The procedure allegedly took about 30 to 45 minutes, but don't remember anything. I remember the room being cold, that's it. And then when I woke up, I was super high, as expected. They actually put your clothes back onto you. Once again, don't know if that's a universal experience, but that happened to me. And I was super embarrassed about it, super weirded out. I had like a thong and like they put my thong back on me. I was conscious for that. I was very concerned, but I was so high. And then they gave me applesauce. I'm surprised I even ate applesauce because I don't like applesauce and I'm a super picky eater, but apparently I was fine with it. I don't even remember this. And then we drove back home for the day.
She got her boobies done today. And now I'm telling her not to do anything and she just keeps doing stuff. She bloody girl.
Bloody but sexy.
Yeah. Now she's gonna hopefully go to sleep. She has to land a 45-degree angle.
I look fat.
No, you don't. In my opinion, my way was pretty optimal. I'll figure it out. You don't worry about that.
I think I have some more clothes.
I know, I'll find them. You don't worry about
Why are
that.
they calling?
Don't answer.
Hello?
She's just gonna watch TV all day now.
For the first day of post-op, all I did was sleep. I was like completely out of it. I was allowed to eat immediately after, so we picked up McDonald's on the drive home, and once I ate, I was out. Another thing that's important to note, if they make you put on that nausea patch, there can be some side effects. One of the side effects I got was that I could not see anything. Well, I could see like vague imagery of stuff, but it was so blurry. If I tried to read a single thing on my phone, I just couldn't. If you see any of my text from during that time, they're unreadable. I was determined to keep the nausea patch on as long as I possibly could because of the passing out incident. If you have that at all, I'd probably call the doctor or go talk to them, because once I went to my post-op appointment, they were like, oh yeah, it's the patch, just take it off. This is important to note because once again, no one told me this would happen and I felt like I was going insane. I was like, I'm going blind. Like it's the boob job's fault. Also, another thing, I'm starting to realize how many problems I actually had. Do not scratch or pull at or rub any of your stitches. This sounds so obvious, but if you were itchy and you were just trying to scratch your boob right here, like in the middle of the night, you're half conscious, just try your best to not do that. I was half asleep, like kind of dreaming, not really knowing what was going on, and I just scratched it and I like ripped out a small little stitch of mine. And the healing was like a little bit more annoying after that. It definitely freaked me out. 3 days post-op, I actually had a really easy recovery. I don't know how similar my experience will be from everyone else's, but the first like week was really tame in comparison. Looking back, it was definitely a little bit hard, a little bit like painful and tight like everyone else says, but apparently in the moment I was fine. I remember talking about how much it wasn't hurting and wasn't bothering me because I thought it was gonna be so bad, but now that I'm completely healed and I'm like 6 months and there's no tightness, no pain, I'm like, okay, that was a little bit annoying and uncomfortable, but yeah, my recovery really wasn't that bad. The way that some people talk about it, is scary. My boyfriend did take care of me the entire time. He was keeping tabs on all of my medication. I was taking 6 different pills, 2 antibiotics, a probiotic, a stool softener, a nerve pain pill, and an inflammation pill. And then I had optional medication for nausea and for sleep. If they give you sleep meds, take the sleep meds because it is so hard to sleep when you are sitting at a 45-degree angle. It wasn't as bad as I thought. Once again, it was just like 1 pillow underneath the small of my back, and then it was 2 underneath my shoulders. The only thing that's really bad about that is you can't sleep on your side or sit on your elbows at all. Like, you know, when you're like laying in bed kind of on your elbow like that, you can't do that. You also can't shower for 48 hours. If you think that's gonna be an issue, it probably won't be because you're gonna be asleep the entire time. You're not gonna have a desire to stand up and go shower. And it gets really boring. Everyone says this, but oh my gosh, it is so boring. There is nothing to do. The first day was the only day that I actually slept outside of normal sleeping periods. Like, I was sleeping throughout the day. Once the first night finished, I stayed up throughout the whole entire day until the next night came. So, I mean, I was up for like 12 hours every single day after that. I watched a lot of TV, I played a lot of DS. I got back into Animal Crossing for a very brief period. But with a nausea patch, man, I couldn't fucking see. So I couldn't even like play on my phone or anything. I could barely even watch TV. I couldn't process like anything that was happening. I rated my pain as a 4 out of 10 or less the entire time. As most people say, I wouldn't really describe the pain as like a painful thing. It was just like a tightness. It just kind of feels like an anvil is sitting on your chest, which I know doesn't sound fun, but it's not that big of a deal. It just feels like a muscle that really needs to be massaged out. I came off my pain meds entirely after 4 days post-op, and I was still fine after that. The first 6 weeks after you get your surgery, honestly, like once you get past that first recovery stage in the first week, that was more annoying for me. Can't lift more than 10 pounds and it hurts when you try to. Everyone tells you you can't lift, but no one tells you that it will be extremely painful if you try to. I pulled my muscles from turning my steering wheel when I was driving, from closing my trunk, just because this apparently uses that muscle. I went to work pretty soon after. I think I went back to work 6 days after, maybe 7. My job does require me to lift stuff a lot of the time because I get all of like our groceries and any orders at all for our office, but I just got people to help me during that period. And that doesn't mean that I wasn't stubborn a lot of the time and still tried to lift stuff. Moral of the story for that, don't do it if you don't have to, and really try your best to never do it. But if you do it a little bit, or if you do it every now and again, do not beat yourself up. Don't strive to pick stuff up, but give yourself slack. If you do not have an anxiety attack. You will be okay. The last things I will mention for my 6-month overall analysis, I think I'm almost 7 now actually, fully healed up, no complications anymore. There might be problems almost entirely up until that 6-month mark. Because everyone talks about that first week and that first 6 weeks, I didn't think that I was gonna have any problems after the 6 weeks. And it's definitely a gradual healing, right? Obviously the first day you're gonna feel like a zombie. First week, you're gonna feel like an anvil is sitting on your chest. First 6 weeks, almost every motion is going to give you a twinge of pain. The first 6 months, you will still feel those pains, but you're not in that extreme period of healing anymore. So it's not as brutal for you to lift up stuff. But probably the first 4, maybe 5 months after, I was still getting random shocks of pain. It felt like a nerve pain a lot of the time. Like it felt like stuff was shocking inside of me. And this is probably TMI, but like when my boyfriend would touch them, I would be like, do not fucking touch them. It hurts, fuck off. And like he would get annoyed with me because he's like, oh, you're like 4 months. And I'm like, it still hurt. And I thought it was gonna be a lifetime thing, I'm not gonna lie. But it's not, it really isn't. After 6 months, you're fine. At the bare minimum. I'm sure it stops earlier. I think it did stop for me at like 4 months. But if it's still hurting like 3 months after, 4 months after, 5 months after, it is not the end of the world. You will be okay. I would say give it your 6 months and then go to your 6-month appointment. I didn't go to my 6 months post-op, but go to your 6 months post-op. If you're still having problems, that is when you can be like, hey, it still hurts. Those are all of my biggest thoughts on the process. All of this was written like as it was happening. Oh, one last thing. Take care of your fucking scars. I did not. I just didn't. This is what my scars look like now. Still pretty bad. Yeah. Now, I don't know how much better they would have looked if I actually took care of them, but they are pretty red and pretty big still. I don't mind them, but I know a lot of people do, so please be conscious of that. I have a few more pictures that I'm gonna show. First of all, I want to show the day after the surgery. Trigger warning, there's a little bit of blood on this, but not a lot at all. If you zoom in like right underneath my boobs, like kind of on my stomach, in this picture, you'll see that like there's just blood all over. It's like a little bit messier than you would think. I'm gonna show my scars 2 days after surgery with tape still on, and my scars about a week later, and you can kind of see that one side's a little bit more fucked up than the other one because I did pull at that one stitch. But once I was about like a month in, I really didn't take a lot of pictures because it's just my body now. All of like the progress pictures were all within the first week. So here's a final before and after if you want to see the difference. One more thing I have to note too. I was really insecure about this for a long time. Just because you get a boob job doesn't mean you have to go to double D's. I was so convinced that it wasn't worth the money if I wasn't going massive. The goal was to not look like this. I wanted a body that I could be confident in and that felt proportionate. Although for a while I felt like maybe they were too big, maybe they were too small, whatever. In the end, I feel like this almost comes back to the natural size that they look like before I lost weight and before I came off of birth control. Oh my gosh, I didn't even say that earlier. I lost a lot of my boobs when I came off of birth control. I don't think it was only the weight loss. I think it was a lot to do with the fact that I wasn't taking hormones. So I have no regrets about going up like 1 cup size, maybe 2. I don't really know, like only going up that much because honestly, I feel like my body looks better now. I'm confident in it, but I'm not like all boob. I'm not like, here are my boobs. Like I want to show them off because that's never been me. I never wanted that. I just wanted my body to feel good. Like, oh, I'm getting a boob job so I could show off the girls. Like I'm not trying to show off the girls. Plus my boobs are so far apart. I don't even have cleavage. Like real quick, let me take this off. I have a picture in this top as well from earlier. You could definitely see it's not like super flat anymore or not to the same extent, but looking at them, do I look like I have like, do I look like I really have boobs? And any cleavage would have to come from me dropping my top like all the way like that, which looks kind of good. I've never worn a top like that. And yeah, if they were like pushed together, I would have something. But when they're in the top just like this, no, nothing crazy. And that is fine. Don't get insecure with your results by comparing yourself to someone else or comparing yourself to what you were supposed to look like. Any of that, just focus on you. Focus on how you feel in your body at the time, because like I said, this is not like double D status, but I look good and I feel good and I'm okay with that. Okay, that's where I'm gonna end this off here. Sorry if this video is like 40 minutes long. I just want to do the absolute most with this and I've been putting it off. Please like and comment, and if you're feeling generous, you can even subscribe. Trying to get serious about posting in the latter half of 2023. So hopefully I see you in some future videos. Until next time, bye bye.